LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Oh, hello there. Very nice to meet you.
Well, let's get back to it.
Some texts and tweets and such from last night. Helen texted, Boris tells us to wait for reports or investigations, and after we've waited years, his fans tell us that the bad behaviour or bad results were ages ago, so it's now unimportant. He must be laughing at us all the way to the bank. I got déjà vu. What's the French for déjà vu? They should really think about that. I think I've read that one before. Let's try this one. Dan says, I was born in 1984. Born in 1984. Brought up by a generation insisting I aim higher than picking fruit. That generation overwhelmingly voted to tank the economy, and now it wants us to be happy picking fruit rather than allow more foreign workers in. As long as they don't have to admit that they're wrong. That's just so utterly wild to me, says Dan, who sounds like he needs to go to bed without his supper. Paul says, I think everyone should leave Boris Johnson alone on a tiny island in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. Wait.
That's a good idea. Chris says, how much are we paying for Boris Johnson's security a year, and is it true that he gets it for life? Please tell me we aren't paying for Liz Truss's security.
Absolutely.
Yes. Paul says, if they wanted to find somebody worse than Suella Braverman, they would have to draw a pentacle on the floor to summon them. I did read these yesterday. And Duncan says, Duncan from Alicante, I'm on Central European time. We're hours ahead. I get your programme 2 hours before you come on. Well, what's it like? Is it worth it? Yesterday's was better? So, how are the how are the British fisher persons doing, by the way?
Dreadful.
Shocking. Foreign fisher persons are said to be invited to person boats in the UK. I'm correcting all of this. This is a story in the Express, which read, foreign fishermen are said to be invited to man boats in the UK. No, sexist. This is because this country is attempting to battle a major skills shortage. Net migration reached 606,000 last year.
Booze.
Oh, that was the wrong one. I've started very badly. Have you heard? Net migration reached 606,000 last year.
What?
Exactly. Exactly. That's right, Carol. More than 6 times the level that the Conservative Party promised.
Liar!
Precisely. And the one industry that those who wanted to get us out of the EU for their own particular ends said would be a Brexit winner are doing so badly they have to hire fisher persons from Europe. I mean, that would be funny if it wasn't so sad. And despite the ever-growing immigration figures, the fishing industry is the latest sector to require support from foreign workers. Both trawler skippers and experienced boat hands on large vessels have now been placed on the short occupation list. This means foreign workers can now come to the UK on a salary of 20-odd grand instead of £26,000. Nigel Farage expressed a concern. He said... Nigel Farage expressed concern about the state of the fishing industry, saying the anger in the sector is astonishing. Yeah, they made the mistake of listening to you, Nige.
I'm a nutcase.
Speaking to The Sun, he said... Most fishermen, see, again, fishermen can be women too, you know. He said, most fishermen I speak to are already at their wits' ends. I just give up, he said. God, wouldn't that be marvellous? Go on, for the benefit of the nation. I am begging you. Give up. You have delighted us enough. Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick said, really, but what difference does it make what he said? I mean, who cares? Shall I go ahead and read it anyway? Oh, all right then. Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick said the comprehensive package to draw in fishermen from Europe will help ensure the UK's fishing industry is able to fully benefit from the fish in UK waters. Truly, we have been taken for a ride. We need Europeans to help us catch British fish which we Brits don't like much, so we'll sell that fish to Europe. I mean, it could only get worse if David Cameron piped up. In other news, David Cameron piped up.
Oh, no.
It's as though, he hasn't done enough damage as it is. He stuck his oar in and called on the government to introduce more welfare reforms to get more British workers into jobs. And that, just the very idea, should terrify you. Because if you think those welfare reforms will be anything other than forcing you to work in a job you don't want to do, then I have a genuine made-in-China Rolex watch I'd like to sell you. Low skill, low wage. That's our future. Thanks a lot, Dave. We no longer need your help. But we know where to find you if we do. You'll be in the shed where they keep the tools. God, are these all from tonight already? I'll never keep on. I just can't keep up. Rob says, with the cost of food rising so fast, when will Fishy Sunak understand that our priorities are his priorities? The country's number one priority is Philip Schofield. I read it in the Daily Mail. I can't read that next bit. But it was something about this.
I'm gripping it.
He is gripping it. At least we've got that. I am genuinely unclear.
I'm genuinely unclear.
No, I'm genuinely unclear. Genuinely unclear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I am genuinely unclear about this whole Philip Schofield issue. I just don't get it. I mean, it's on and on and on. I bet I won't read out well, maybe I will read out the headlines. This is the Mail Online. Let's just see what the most important stories in the whole wide world are for the Mail Online. Okay. I told ITV about Schofield's affair. What follows looks like a cover-up. Holly slams Philip Schofield's very hurtful lies. Ryan Clark shares cryptic photograph minutes after Philip Schofield admitted to affair. And on and on and on and on and on and on and on, like it's the only story in the world. And I just don't understand it. Maybe I'm being stupid. That is possible, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, it is possible that I'm just being stupid. Here's the story, or whatever which bits that we know. Philip Schofield's once respected TV career lies in pieces after he admitted to having a relationship with a younger man who worked on This Morning, a TV programme. Oh, you must know that by now. The presenter was once considered the core star of ITV's presenting lineup, fronting programmes, including but not limited to the British Soap Awards, The Cube, whatever that is, and 5 Gold Rings, whatever that is. But on Friday, Philip admitted that he'd had a relationship with a young colleague while still married to his wife, Stephanie, and that he lied about it to ITV's colleagues, friends and agents. Well, of course he lied about it. It was an affair when he was married. Of course he lied about it. In a statement to the Daily Mail, Philip revealed he would be stepping down from his hosting stint at the British Soap Awards next month, and he would no longer be fronting a new primetime series for ITV. And now industry insiders have said that they expect the 61 years old, insiders say that they expect him to step back from public life. What, like he's Prince Andrew? Public life? What, he doesn't get to go out again? A source close to the disgraced presenter told the Super Soaraway Stun, there's no coming back from this. From what? Having an affair? Is that it? The Sun says, those who have defended him are horrified to find out that all this is true. They said, they're in horror, shock. What? If everything about this story has already been told, then I genuinely am totally confused. I'm very unclear.
I'm genuinely unclear.
I am genuinely unclear. A source close to the disgraced presenter told The Sun there's no coming back from this. Those who have defended him are horrified. What? He's been misleading ITV and even his own team for years. He was having an affair. Misleading comes with the territory. You don't have an affair while you're married and not keep it covered up. Do you? But it goes further than this. I mean, they're not just writing off his career, they're writing off the careers of everybody that he's ever stood next to. Industry experts have cast doubt on the future of This Morning. Not all mornings, but the TV show called This Morning. Others have said that senior heads, including the CEO, could roll as a result of the bombshell confession. Am I hallucinating, or is this real life? Questions have been posed about whether senior executives at the channel knew the, this is the quote that he gave, unwise but not illegal relationship, if they knew about it. Everyone gets sacked. Why? This Morning, not This Morning, but, you know, the TV show. This Morning reportedly could face the axe. Blimey, they're going to kill the whole show. And what are they going to replace it with? Another show that looks exactly like it. Betcha. I mean, are they going to start broadcasting university courses at that time in the morning? Very doubtful. It'll be cooking and like how to lose weight and here's somebody you don't know wearing high street clothes. I've never seen that show, but I betcha that's what it is. And somebody who doesn't want to be there, who's an actor, who's got the short straw, and that's the show that they've been told to go and promote their latest film on. Bet that's what that was, what that show was like. Anyway, This Morning, not all mornings, but the programme, could reportedly face the axe if it emerges that to show bosses covered up Philip Schofield's affair. I mean, it's so serious that they might actually ban mornings. All times before noon are henceforth banned because of Philip Schofield. No! Yeah, thanks a lot, Philip. See what you've done? This Morning could face the axe if it emerges show bosses covered up Philip Schofield's affair with a younger male ITV colleague. And the only sense that I can make of any of this is that's what it's about. Male colleague. I mean, is it that you can be gay on TV as long as you don't, do anything gay? I mean, all those overtly camp characters. I mean, we've had them ever since television existed. We had them before television. I mean, there was Kenneth Williams and I can't remember the other guy's name from Around the Horn. Overtly camp. Frankie Howard, Larry Grayson. I mean, there's always been people like that on British TV, just as there's always been people dressing up as women, blokes dressing up as women on British TV. So they were overtly camp. But people like that have always populated TV here, but they were sexless. That was the thing about them, wasn't it? I mean, you couldn't imagine them, doing it. Oh.
Disgusting.
It was all innuendo, wasn't it? In your endo. Camp and gay, but, metaphorically smooth down there like an action man. You can be gay as long as you don't, do anything gay. So, while there's always been gay people on TV, it was okay as long as they didn't actually do anything gay. I mean, if every man who had an affair with a younger woman from work was to be fired and their career ruined, I mean, there'd be a lot of empty office chairs up and down the land, wouldn't there? What difference does it make? I mean, if we've heard all that there is to hear about this story, it's just adult had affair with adult while married to other adult, then I genuinely don't have any idea what the big deal is. Somebody pointed out yesterday that Prince Charles himself had an affair with an adult while he was married to another adult. They didn't fire him, did they? They promoted him. Not a queen, a king. And now the people who run ITV are said to be in danger of losing their jobs. Their heads could roll, says the Stun. I must be hallucinating because this cannot be real life. Somebody wake me up. 0345 6060 Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
You're wondering what it's all about, and I can't tell you because I don't know myself.
No, I honestly have no idea. Not a clue. 0345 6060 973. Liverpool, David.
Hi, Nick.
David.
First of all, it's got nothing to do with anybody. It's got nothing to do... Holly Willoughby passing comments. He never told me. And it's got nothing to do. It's got nothing to do with...
Yeah, what's it got to do with her? Yeah, I don't get it.
I wouldn't have told any of them on that show.
It's an affair. You're supposed to keep it secret.
And what about the other Muppet?
Which one?
Eamon Holmes. He's, shouting his mouth off. I mean, they're absolutely pathetic. If the lad was underage, did one...
No, he wasn't underage. We know that already.
That's right. Did want him hung, drawn and quartered. But it's got nothing to do with anyone.
I just wonder whether, because it's daytime television, it's almost like children's television, you're not actually allowed to be a human being. You're supposed to be some sort of robot or doll.
Yeah. I mean, imagine that in Parliament. Parliament would be half empty.
Well, last time I looked, there was something like 60 MPs under investigation for, shenanigans.
Disgusting.
60. I think that is a correct number, 60, which is about a third. No, wait, that's about a tenth. 1 in 10. And those are the ones that we know about. So, I mean, please. This, the whole world is I just don't get it. Like, I really am mystified. The only thing that I can think of is what I've said already, is that, if it was a bloke and a woman, then, never mind. That's just, I mean, this guy, for crying out loud, this bloke...
I can be more presidential than anybody.
He was the most powerful man in the world. A serial philanderer. Ain't that right, Donny?
Oh, shut up!
Yeah. Your husband used to play away, Melania.
I don't care.
She's actually not that bothered. You can understand that. Hey, David, I've got to go, but thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. You and me were both Mr. Fides. I made emails. I needed a pair of trainers for my son, and I managed to find an expensive pair in my local shop, which were almost half price, so I snapped them up. Rees-Mogg's prediction for cheaper footwear coming true. What's your view?
We could have cheaper food, clothing and footwear straight away.
Straight away. Yes, straight away. We could have cheaper clothes and footwear straight away. Pah! Why are these people still in power? How is it that we're putting up with this? You found your son needed trainers, and you found a pair at half price. I bet your son said,
No.
Yeah, no, Dad. Stupid Dad. Not half price trainers, full price. The only ones that are acceptable. Kath texts, is anyone going to mention the elephant in the room? That the airport e-gates and technical problems were probably hacked and caused by Russia? Well, I had thought about that. Yeah, they're softening us up for the big one.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they're making... Now, was it more difficult to leave or to get back in? I'm not sure which would be worse. Because if we're now going to be forced to stay here because we can't leave... Well, I have a finger in the air that's of objection, even though I never, ever take a holiday. I mean, I can dream. One day I might. Yeah, I had that exact same thought. Rootin', tootin', shootin', pootin'. Stay out of our business, Rootin'. Tom emails, as all the greats are getting old, I think we need a mandatory tweeting policy where people such as Keith Richards have to tweet on Twitter on a daily basis so we know that they're still okay. Yeah, well, the amount of times that I've seen somebody trending, and I thought, oh, no. But it's just because, I don't know, they said something stupid or as in Keith Richards' case, probably smoked something stupid.
Want to score some pot?
But, yeah, there needs to be some sort of warning when people start trending on Twitter. If they're not dead, then there should be like an asterisk beside them. Not actually dead yet. Not yet. But it's going to start. I've been predicting this for a while, but you don't have to be a raving genius to figure this out. But we're going to have a tsunami of dead rock and rollers fairly soon. Now, David Bowie died, and then, apart from the world went to rack and ruin. Yeah, thanks a lot, David Bowie. You couldn't have stuck around for a little while longer. Everything seemed to fall apart when David Bowie died. But nobody else of that stature followed him. Now, we just had Tina Turner go, and she was, of that ilk, I'd say. A-list. And they're all getting there and thereabouts, aren't they? And they've all done ruinous things to themselves during the course of their lifetimes. And they're all sort of 70. I mean, some of them are pushing 80 years old. I reckon they'll all go at once. I mean, not like hold hands and just, leap off a cliff. But I think that it's probably likely that we'll be shocked at the speed at which the deaths of A-listers start coming at us. Because all of those classic rock and rollers, they're all, there or thereabouts. Wellington, Somerset. Hello, John.
Oh, hello, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Nice to talk to you. I think you're in really good form this evening.
Oh, well, I haven't even done half an hour yet, but okay then. Thanks.
Okay. Are you delivering?
Excuse me?
Are you delivering?
No, I'm doing a show at the moment. But
on the people's promises.
Your driver will be with you between 10:31 and 11:31, if that's any help.
Well, I rang up earlier and I spoke to your producer very, very briefly.
Yeah.
And you know that Sunak is like super extraordinarily rich?
Yes.
Right. Do you think that he's the secret billionaire?
What secret billionaire?
There's a TV programme called The Secret Millionaire. I know you don't watch television.
Well, I do, but I haven't seen that. What do they do on it?
What do they do? So it's a programme about what happens is there's a millionaire.
Yeah.
And he pretends to not be a millionaire. So
Right.
he'll go into a community and he befriends people and chats to them and this, that and the other. And he might work in their chip shop or whatever.
Yes.
And then after a week with them, he suddenly exposes himself, if you'll excuse the expression.
Oh, really?
Disgusting.
Well, millionaires can get away with anything.
And he says, I'm the secret millionaire. And he writes them out a cheque for, say, 20 grand
Yes.
to get a new tip shop fryer.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they go, oh, thank you very much, and all that. And I was thinking that Sunak is the secret billionaire delivering on the promise.
On what promise?
He might pay you a visit.
He hasn't delivered on one single thing that he's said. Not any of his top priorities, which are the country's priorities, by the way.
It's the country's number one priority.
His number one priority is our number one priority. It's, I don't know, he just keeps on going on about boats and he isn't stopping any of them.
I know, it's extraordinary, but he is super extraordinarily rich.
Yes.
That's the other thing I don't get.
He's so rich, he doesn't know how to use a credit card. That's how rich he is.
That's it. I get the impression he never wears the same pair of socks twice or the same suit.
Yeah, or the same pair of shoes, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who wears suits like that anyway?
I know. Who over the age of 10 actually dresses like that? Precisely. Yeah, I think he gets his suits in M&S school uniform department.
He's the incredible shrinking man.
Yeah, well, somebody's obviously washed him at 60 degrees. It's specifically said on the label to only do it at 30. A wool cycle. That's what you got to wash him on. Be very, very careful. And stretch him out before, before drying him. Dry him flat. Always dry him flat. Thanks a lot, John. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
I think he's portraying a quite stupefying ignorance.
I mean, there's a guy who's had an affair or two, and we promoted him to the very, very top job in the country. We didn't fire him. We knew about him before people voted for him. I was going to say we voted for him, but no, I know I didn't. Not my fault. Can't blame that on me. Jess says it's not Fisher people, it's Fisher them. I'm fairly sure it isn't, Jess. Martin says, I was also born in 1984 and I came to pick fruit when I was 20. Lucky for me, I don't have to work anymore. Well, what's that got to do with anything? Why don't you have to work? Are you the millionaire secret person, whatever it's called? What is it? Oh, here's the news from the person next door. My glamorous assistant has got this information up almost straight away. It says The Secret Millionaire is a reality television show which originated in the UK, in which millionaires go incognito into impoverished communities and agree to give away tens of thousands of pounds or tens of thousands of dollars in the US and Australian versions. Members of the community are told the cameras are present to film a documentary. A documentary? What about a fish and chip shop? Do me a favour. You know, I would prefer, rather than them swanning about, giving out money for fame and lols, to, I don't know, here's a revolutionary concept. How about paying your taxes would be a better idea. We pay all of the taxes that are legally due in every jurisdiction in which we do business, they always say. And so they've all got the same lawyer. Dartford. Hello, Abdullah. Abdullah? Dartford.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes, Abdullah.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no. Are you I have to double check. Are you being facetious or are you real when you say the only thing he's done is have an affair? Because that's quite a shocking thing to say, really, because...
Is it?
I mean, it'd be quite sad if we've reached a kind of level of moral depravity that we don't think that having an affair and betraying the trust of your partner is not something that is.
I didn't say that. It's important to the person who is having the affair. It's important to the person that they're having personal interface with.
Disgusting.
And it's very important to the person that they happen to be married to at the time. But it's got nothing to do with us.
That is true, but I do also think that we do have a social responsibility as well, because ultimately it's you do if you.
All right, well, let me ask you this, Abdullah. Let's just cut to the chase. Who did you vote for in the last general election?
I voted Labour. Must have been Jamie Corbyn back then. Yeah, but I mean, I also, to be honest with you, I also don't agree with the idea that the only reason that there's an issue is just because he's gay. Because the reality is when he came out as gay, everyone supported him. Yeah, that's right. Until they knew that he was actually doing gay things, and then this sort of contract that we have with people on television. Oh, you can be gay just as long as you're not, gay. You can act all camp and that, and we love that. Because it's, it's like a flirtation with naughtiness, isn't it? I mean, we've had camp people on TV for as long as I can remember. And I always wondered, why? Why do, particularly in the 70s and the 60s, I mean, it used to be illegal-ish back then. I mean, I can't remember when, when the significant dates came in, but it used to be fairly illegal, pretty sure about that. And yet they were all over the radio and the TV. And it was like, like old ladies sitting in the audience going, like that. But yeah, if you actually ask them about gay rights, they'd be, oh no, kill them all. So it's just mystifying to me why we've always had that and that sort of culture here on TV and the radio. We like camp just as long as it's you don't actually do anything about it. You can be gay, just don't, be gay. I don't get it.
Americans don't get our thing with, I was going to say with drag, but of course now drag has sort of taken over the world. Bizarre. They never used to understand all of our comedians, like dressing up, like Les Dawson used to do. Well, everybody, like all of the comedians of the 1970s, they all dressed up in drag, didn't they? And that was a uniquely British thing. Americans couldn't understand it at all. To the point that you remember when Queen came out with I want to be set free, or I want to be free.
Rock and roll.
That one. And they did that video of Freddie Mercury in like a short dress doing the hoovering in the front room. Do you remember? Americans freaked out about that. I think it lost Queen the millions and millions. I may be wrong about this, but this is my understanding. I think it lost that band a massive amount of sales in America. And I think they only sort of came back when... what was that? That film, Mike's something. When they were all in a van and Bohemian Rhapsody came on and they were all shaking their heads. I think that particular film was when Queen came back into the mainstream for America. But the Americans went right off them when they saw Freddie Mercury dressed up as a woman doing the hoovering. I mean, the band was called Queen, for crying out loud. Did they not get it? 0345 6060 973. Let's have East Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Nick. Yeah. Well, carry on with this morning and Schofield.
I don't get it. I just don't understand.
I don't. And there's so much important stuff going on. I mean, what are people thinking? I mean, is this what interests people? Is that why they don't go out and vote? Because there isn't a scandal involved in going out and voting or something.
Yeah, if you promised people that they were going to find out about some the sexual shenanigans of some TV star, and it will only be revealed if they go down to the polling station. God, there would be queues around the block. You wouldn't be able to get there before 10 o'clock. They'd be looking at their watches, going, "Come on."
That was into the secret, yeah, June. But yeah, what struck me though, there was somebody came on LBC earlier on saying they were really concerned about Schofield's welfare, and because his wife works for him and one of his kids works for his agency that have binned him and bits and pieces, and I thought
he's been a major face on television for 20 years. He must have picked up at least 20 million quid. I mean, he'll be just fine. Don't you worry about him.
Well, I thought all he has to do is have another few affairs, be disloyal to a few more women, and he gets 200 grand a night. I'm thinking through in America.
That's about the rate, isn't it, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
He's not commenting on that. No.
No, the other sort of daft thought I had this week was this guy who crashed into the gates at 10 Downing Street. It's emerged that the police are charging him for having obscene images of children with him.
Well, I don't believe that we can actually talk about that because if he's been charged, then that's not something we can discuss. But it does make you wonder how they managed to find that out. Thanks a lot, Mike. 0345 6060 973. Hannah says, without Carol, just for this one, I have a problem. Oh, see, me and Carol, we do a podcast called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol.
Oh, right, yeah.
And apparently Hannah has a problem for me without Carol.
What?
Yeah. Sit this one out, Carol. Hannah says, without Carol, just for this one, I have a problem. I feel I'm being gaslighted by this government. Is it just me? No, Hannah. We're all being gaslit by this government. It's not just you, it's everybody. Hannah, why does everything have to be about you? 0345 6060 973. Hannah you probably know about Hannah. She's just one of those very, very selfish people that thinks that everything's about her. Lucy says, it's a shame Bojo couldn't be prevented from becoming Prime Minister based on his affairs prior to 2019. Ain't that right, Bodge? Yes. It's absolutely extraordinary. I mean, talk about double standards. All of the people that are hyperventilating and writing the comments about how disgusting all of this is under the stories in the Mail and, other newspapers are available online. It's just that not many people read them. I bet they all voted for Bodger Johnson. Can't wait to vote for him again. He's been brought down by the blob. Which is pretty rude, actually, referring to him as a blob. I mean, I thought that was just me. That's my name for him, Mr. Blobby. But, even his fans say that he's been brought down by the blob. Oh, my God. And the whining over there just gets worse and worse and louder and louder. I mean, good grief. Is anything he does ever his own responsibility?
No.
No. It's extraordinary. His fans are ludicrous, and they are enablers. They're enabling him to act as though outside forces are doing him down. I have detailed files. You can hear me shuffling through my paperwork to find it. I can't put my finger on it at the moment. But when I do, I will be gripping it.
I'm gripping it.
Just like him. 0345 6060 973. Let's have, let me see, he's been waiting the longest. Chelsea. Hello, Mark.
Oh, hi there. Hello.
Mark.
Now, I cross swords with you on this one, I'm afraid. I don't think it's because he's homosexual. I don't think it would make any difference if he was hetero or bi. I think the fact that he's filthy rich as a result of doing something which is very, very prevalent. I'm not talking about the bedroom, but the living room. And by the way, don't say front room. Well, you said front room. I say drawing room because it's a bit, it's a bit. Anyway,
Mark, you could say drawing room if we were having a phone conversation in the 1950s. These days, it's a front room. Yeah.
Okay, living room then. Don't say front room.
The salon.
So he sits
Let's
on
talk
a
about
sofa
it's the
talking
salon.
About the stuff you read in the Times and the Sun, which come off the same press.
Right.
And he's not, exactly like Attenborough or something. He's not even talking about it. So he's got filthy rich from doing what seems to me to be next to nothing.
Right.
Hid his sexuality, I'm sure, but there is this English sexual repression. Now, your man who took the call from me hadn't heard of Field Marshal Montgomery, but he had heard of World War II. You know who I'm talking about, do you?
What, the bloke through the glass here?
Field Marshal Montgomery, have you heard of him?
Yeah, of course I've heard of him.
Yeah, but he hadn't. The controller, the producer, the governor who took my call.
Yeah,
he hadn't even heard of him.
I seriously doubt that.
What do you think he devoted the rest of his retired life to after defeating Hitler in World War II?
Monty?
In Civvy Street.
I don't know. Wearing extravagant hats, jodhpurs, that sort of thing?
Prosecuting, finding down, tracking, having imprisoned. It was sodomy. Men who were guilty of, being gay.
Well, that's a bizarre thing for a person like that to be doing.
There's a repression, whether it's... But with heterosexuality,
wait a minute. Hey, Mark, what has this got to do with Monty? I mean, you're talking about the drawing room. You're talking about Montgomery as though you're discussing current affairs. What are you talking about?
You've got security staff outside expensive flats who refer to playboys as nonces because they're visited by ladies.
Oh, Mark, you are all over the place. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, but I do know that most of it is borderline offensive. 0345 6060 973. The drawing room. One only talks of the drawing room these days. It's very non-you to say front room. Dreadfully common. Isn't that right, Truss?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. She is 100% certain about that. She is not unclear.
I'm genuinely unclear.
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm super. Thanks for asking. 0345 6060 973. Liam texts, if Philip was straight and having an affair with his younger secretary, most people would say he was having a midlife crisis. Yeah. And they wouldn't think another thing about it. Is there a bloke in this country that has been married for more than 10 years who has not had an affair? Or tried to have one? Anyone at all? Harrow, Jonathan. Harrow.
Good evening, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Now, I don't want to disagree with you straight off the first point, okay? Okay, yeah, but I'm going to say a word with I, the innuendo.
Innuendo, yeah.
Because you're talking in innuendo about you're saying this is nothing wrong, and we don't have free speech in this country now, but I will ask you this. Why is the news not saying the age? Because Philip Schofield he's middle-aged man, yes?
Yeah.
He's like, 60 plus.
Is he?
Like late 50s. He's not a spring chicken.
No. No.
You know, he's not. He used to do that program when I first come to the country. He used to do the kiddies program with
some rat.
Puppet.
Yeah, like a rat. I think it actually was a rat, wasn't it? Roland Rat. Exactly.
So the
that was him. Hang on a minute. Was that actually him? Or are we thinking about somebody else? That wasn't Noel Edmonds, because Noel Edmonds had Mr. Blobby.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Who subsequently became the Prime Minister of this country. Can you believe that?
Yeah. So Philip Schofield, he had, and let's see how much the Wokie free speech allows me to say, because
Wokie Kokie.
Okie dokie.
Yes.
I've got nothing against the gays.
But...
No, but how? Oh, no, I'm very tolerant.
Yeah.
I was actually reprimanded recently
for your tolerance. I can understand that. Yeah.
No, because I got the acronym wrong. It is actually now LGBTQIA plus.
Wait a minute. LBZTQIL plus.
Yeah, it is the whole acronym for
I'm fairly sure that that's not correct, but go ahead.
It is.
And by the way, if I was a plus, I think I'd be offended. I mean, who are they to call me a plus, to lump me in with everybody else? Offensive. Plus,
you could lose, not you, but one could lose their job nowadays for not getting the pronouns correct. Well, I'll get onto that in a second.
Oh, maybe you will. We'll see.
Listen, I'm not going to...
We'll see. Time is running out faster than you know. Go ahead.
What was the age? What was the age of the young person he had the affair with?
Legal, decent, honest, and true, as we have been told over and over again. Yeah, it wasn't illegal; it was just unwise. So he said.
Okay, but the legal age for both the gays and non-gays is 16 in this country. So what was the age?
Well, he was working there, so let's assume that he was older than that. What difference does it make?
Well, because if and this is where the walkie-talkie police come in.
God.
Because if it was a 16-year-old...
and that's very unlikely that it was, but if it was, it doesn't really make any difference. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, who cares?
Well, he's an old man who's the big daddy of the Satan, and he's having the intimate physical relationship with the younger gay.
Right, but he wasn't chained to a radiator in his basement, was he? It was, as far as we know, it was consensual, and it has nothing to do with anybody. I just don't understand why this is such a big deal.
No, one of the woke feminist presenters on the news show, she was saying that there is an imbalance of power, because nowadays, of course, if a man in the workplace...
That's always the case when a man will have an affair with anybody else. Because, A, he's married, so there is an imbalance of power there. If this relationship isn't going anywhere unless I get divorced. So there's always an imbalance there. Every affair that has ever existed between two grown people will always have a certain imbalance. I mean, one of them will earn more, one of them will be older, one of them will be bigger. There's always an imbalance. I don't really get what you're trying to say here, Jonathan.
But it is an anti-man agenda, but also...
What's an anti-man agenda?
You know, nowadays in the workplace, even if you look at a woman and say, I would never say this because it's a lot of racism. But if you look, if you look at, I got reprimanded.
Yeah, well, I would think so, yeah.
No, I asked, when I came back from the Abu Dhabi, I needed a chartered accountant, but I'm not corrupt. And I
don't know that you shared this that you shared the information that you weren't corrupt straight away does rather ring bells of suspicion in my mind.
No, but can I just finally say that I had to ask the accountant, her pronouns were they, them. And I wanted to know if she was a lesbian or a gay.
Right. Well, what's that got to do with counting? She was your accountant. All you needed to know was, can she count?
And one.
Yes.
Two.
That's right.
6 million.
Oh, bad accountant. If that's how your accountant adds, Jonathan, then time to get another accountant. And whatever it was you were going to say next, I think I've saved us all. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Chris says, how ridiculous is ITV to think of axing This Morning, not This Morning, but the TV show, over Philip Schofield if it survived the disgraced weatherman. Why was he disgraced? Someone at ITV needs to give their head a wobble. I don't know about the weatherman, so I'll just skip over that because I don't know. I have no idea what I'm talking about on this subject or any other. As a matter of fact, that is correct. Paul says, I believe that Michael Jackson, Prince, and George Michael also passed in Bowie year AD. What? I believe Michael Jackson, Prince, and George Michael also passed in Bowie year AD. Does that make sense? Well, it makes as much sense as anything else you've heard on this show so far. Anne says, who else's business is it anyway? It's even taken precedence over the King and Nell Gwynn tottering around the Chelsea Flower Show. Oh, which, by the way, was the centre of a wokey-cokey scandal. Can you believe that?
Okie dokie.
Yes. The bloke with the shabby suits on the Flower Show. I haven't got time to read this now, so I might get to that later. I might do. I can't make any promises, but I might do. What else? Anne says, oh no, done that. Matt says, so wasn't Elon Musk one of the people that raised concerns about AI, ChatGPT, being very dangerous?
Affirmative.
But now Elon Musk has been granted permission by the FDA, the USA Food and Drug Administration, to begin trials on putting microchips inside human brains. This gives my brain a short circuit. Why is one dangerous but the other advantageous, says Matt. I have no idea. Does anybody want a brain implant made by Elon Musk?
No.
It's a no from me. And furthermore...
No.
But thanks for asking. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. I mean, those brain implants may be for good reasons, but if they work as well as Twitter does, it's going to be a no from me.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Hello, boys.
Well, the whole world's gone crazy.
You've got to be kidding me. Liz Truss is going to be ennobling people. She's going to be handing out funny titles and badges. This is from a couple of days ago in the Times. The financial maelstrom that hit the UK assets after the mini-budget of Liz the Truss bot and Crazy Kwarteng was attributed caustically to investors hitting Britain with, quotes, a moron premium.
Absolutely.
A moron premium. The term originated among financial commentators online to explain why gilts were being sold off at the same time as the pound, a dynamic usually associated with poorer emerging markets during a currency crisis. In other words, the Lizbot turned this great nation into a third world country. This week, sterling and gilts marched in step once again as bond prices fell sharply and the currency weakened. I have absolutely no idea what any of this means, as I don't do the financial finagling. Not a clue. Apart from, it means that we're all in big trouble, huge. The pound has shed nearly 3% against the dollar this month.
What?
3% this month. Financial commentators online are explaining why the UK economy is in such dire straits, and they're describing it as the moron premium, specifically because of Liz Truss.
That is a disgrace.
Precisely. For all the government's attempts to wipe out the memory of the short-lived Truss era by abandoning tax cuts and reaffirming its commitment to fiscal rectitude, the reputational damage could prove to be permanent. We're always going to be described as the country with the moron premium. Because of this moron.
Absolutely.
Good grief. And now she gets to throw titles and badges at her best chums. The people that made it possible. They should be in jail right now rather than going to the House of Lords. But, of course, those people don't ever go to jail, do they? House of Lords, that's where they're going. Moody's Investor Service chap said the pound's decline illustrates how dominance can fade over time. That's this country in a nutshell. Fading. Having this country fade over time is Fishy Sunak's number one priority.
It's the country's number one priority. It's my number one priority up and down the country, and that will be our focus.
He's gripping it.
I'm gripping it.
He is gripping it. Where would we be if he wasn't doing that? 0345 6060 973. Manchester. Hello, Brian.
Hi, Nick. Just 3 quick points. It became legal, homosexuality, in 1967. The other point was you've left out my favourite, Mr. Humphreys, with that walk. Third point is, did you get the idea for your programme from
hang on. Mr. Humphreys. Oh.
Are you being served?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely right.
He's my favourite.
Mr. Humphreys. Exactly. But he was one of those sexless people on TV, like Larry Grayson and Frankie Howard and all of those people. It was all like, oh, you know. It was all of that, just as long as you didn't actually, do it.
Disgusting. And did you get your idea for a programme from Jack Jackson, who had a similar sort of programme? He played the music, and in between, he'd put Alf Garnett and Steptoe and that. Did you get your idea from him?
I don't know who Jack Jackson is. Who's Jack Jackson?
Oh, he was a DJ in the 70s. That's why I listen to your programme, because it reminds me of him.
Oh, right. No, I got the idea for this show from a bloke called Neil Rogers, who is the best radio talent I have ever heard. In fact, the best comic talent I've heard in any medium. He used to do a 4-hour show every day in Florida. He had loads of offers to go and do a nationwide show, and Howard Stern wanted him to go and do whatever that... Sirius, isn't it? That's the... not Sirius, Sirius. The cable channel or satellite, whatever it is over there. It's like radio, but it's not. But he never wanted to leave Florida. He didn't want to broadcast outside of Florida, but he often left the country and broadcast from outside. He spent some time in Amsterdam, and he spent a lot of time in Canada because he didn't much like Florida to live in, but to broadcast to, loved it. And it was a very, very specific show. If you didn't know what he was talking about, then you'd have absolutely no clue, because most of the content was just about what was happening in the building that he was sitting in. You know, it was like the machinations of running a radio station. And he used to rip apart everybody. Funniest, there's just the funniest bloke I've ever heard in any medium, Neil Rogers. So that's where this show comes from. I'm sort of doing a hymn. In fact, it was a cassette that a friend of mine sent from Florida when I was working at Radio Luxembourg. And a bloke that I used to know in London, he went out to live over there, and he sent me a cassette saying, God, you've got to listen to this bloke. You've never heard anything like it in your life. And I hadn't. And I heard it, and I thought, wow, that's what you can do with radio. That's incredible. And I changed my show on Radio Luxembourg overnight from being a top 40 show to being a phone-in. And I didn't discuss it with anybody. I just did it. You imagine that? And nobody cared. I don't think that the management were listening, because Radio Luxembourg management weren't in Luxembourg. Because if you were on Radio Luxembourg, you had to actually go to Luxembourg, which is a fascinating place.
Boring.
Really dull. I spent 6 months there. Which is plenty long enough. I'd like to go back for the weekend because, it looks nice, but very, very boring to live in. But anyway, somebody sent me a cassette of Neil Rogers, which I still have, and that was a life-changing moment, and I've been doing him ever since. And his stuff is available on the World Wide Wait. Ask for it by name, Neil Rogers. Thanks a lot, Brian. 0345 6060 973. Phil says, I have a nature question. Where have all the ants gone? Do you think the answer is Europe? Are we ant shy? I mean, I'd imagine that would upset birds because, that's what birds eat, isn't it? I don't know. I have got no idea. All I know is that there's a lot of white flowering plants. Maybe ants don't like that. What do I know? Let's see. Prague. Ian.
Oh, hello, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks. Have you got a lot of ants in Prague?
We do.
Yeah, well, there you are, you see. They've gone to Prague. It's a very good value destination. That's what I heard.
It is, and they're trying to come to England now, but they can't swim.
No,
so there we go.
Well, it's the small boats. we're repelling them at the border. Yeah.
With the Schofield thing, I think it goes. I just find it. I was just saying to your researcher. I think this also goes back to the funeral of the Queen, because they were gunning for Schofield and Holly, what's her name?
Yeah.
And that didn't really fly. And he's also not, I'm just looking at some of the comments, I think you should always look at, who's firing the bullets. And they keep bringing up that he defended Meghan Markle, and Jeremy Clarkson got fired, and Eamon Holmes. So he's made a few enemies, or ITV have, and they're all now on GB News, who would love to see.
Well, now hang on a minute. Jeremy Clarkson wasn't on ITV. And Jeremy Clarkson was let go for a very specific reason.
He was, but Schofield came out and condemned him. That's what I mean. So, I was just having a look because I thought, why would, and all these are big egos. So, and the other thing I just think I noticed was the Daily Mail, when the immigration numbers came out, the immigration numbers weren't front and center. They still were banging on about Schofield.
Right.
And I think
distraction.
That, it's a nice distraction for them because they supported Brexit and will control the borders. And also there's a real vocal minority who seem to conflate a man having a relationship with another adult male who's younger with pedophilia. You look at some of these comments,
I know,
and they don't realize that gay men are gay men. They don't want to have a relationship with, you know what I mean? They conflate the two.
Yeah, more. I think we're talking.
Saying he's a groomer.
Yeah, I think we're talking about morons here, Ian.
Yes, indeed.
There's no cure for morons.
Yeah, but they shout a lot, and they seem to get a lot of clicks.
Yeah. Well, I think that might be right. I think you might have hit the nail right on the head there. Distraction. They're distracting us from the serial failure of the current regime. Yes.
Yeah, because it's completely over the top. I mean, who cares? Who cares? It's sad for him and his family, but it's nobody's business. So,
I couldn't agree more. All right, thanks a lot, Ian. Yeah, and as soon as this story plays out, and I would give it till Monday, of course they're going to find something that Meghan has done. Oh, Meghan? I mean, she's probably, I don't know. She's, they'll uncover new depths of wokeness, I betcha.
Okie dokie.
Wokey cokey. She'll have been kind to a puppy, and they'll be absolutely furious about that. That puppy should kill itself. You know, that sort of thing. What are we like? 0345 6060 973. Lucy says, Liz Truss must think that The Secret Millionaire is a fine example of trickle-down economics. Yeah. Yeah, all you got to do is just wait around long enough, and some person you've never met will pretend to do a documentary about your workplace and then write you a cheque for £1 million. That will happen to you. Brian says, I don't understand what the problem is either. So what? He had an affair with a bloke much younger than him. None of our business. It's a witch hunt, poor guy. He's a witch? Oh, well, that puts a whole different context on it, don't it? I didn't know that. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Oh, don't forget to remind me to talk about flakes. Not people who are flakes, actual flakes.
This is LBC. Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
This is absolute tosh.
Thanks, Nige. You're the best. Nigel Farage is threatening to come back. Have you heard about that? Oh, boy. Brexit is going so badly, he's actually threatening to make a reappearance.
Oh, no.
Nigel Farage has hinted a return to frontline politics could be on the cards. The former Kipper said Brexit has failed under the Tories amid record-high net migration to the UK. How's Brexit going, Nige?
Brexit's going great.
He used to say. Now he says it's a catastrophe. Mr. Farage predicted there will be another insurgency in British politics, which he said could come from him. Oh, please, please, Nige, I am begging you, try to become an MP again. I mean, you never know. Next time you might lose to a man in a pantomime horse costume. You could actually lose to the back end of a horse. Asked if he would return to frontline politics in the next 5 years, he said he might if he has a really clear, achievable goal. He said, I don't know, I genuinely don't know, I haven't ruled it out, I haven't ruled it in. He said, no idea. He said, if we had an electoral system that was representative in some way, then it would be much easier. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I agree with Nigel Farage.
What?
Yeah. We should have a more representative electoral system. And it should be the law that everyone votes. And in that scenario, we would never have had Brexit, and we wouldn't have been run by the Conservative Party for the last 13 years. Well said, Nige. 0345 6060 973. Merthyr Tydfil. Hello, Jeff.
Well, hiya,
Jeff.
Nick. How you doing, boy?
Good, thanks. Yes, very well.
Well, I used to watch daytime television.
Did you? Why?
It was in the late 1970s, and it was called Open University then.
Oh, right. People in brown corduroy suits and beards. I remember that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. And when that finished, I didn't watch it anymore because I don't want to know about crematorium and chairs that lift you out and stellar stair lifts and stuff like that. And so now I've got a little bit of information for you from that Open University.
Okay, then.
It's fascinating stuff. In the late 1970s, this country was being inundated with Japanese motorbikes and diggers and, massive stuff.
Yamaha.
And we had a local factory here
Suzuki.
called Hymac.
Mm-hmm.
Hymac, and it used to do tracked diggers. It was an excellent machine.
Yeah.
But suddenly, the Japanese were bringing in these Mitsubishis and these Komatsus and all the rest of these diggers.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, Hymac is bust. gone because they couldn't compete with the price. And guess who was on the verge of bankruptcy? This was all on the Open University. Banford and JCB. And
this was on the Open University? What subject?
Program.
Economics?
The subject was the common market and how it defends its own industry. It can defend it by banning dumping. It was called dumping then. Japan was guilty of it.
Yeah.
They just have
dumping.
Undercut.
They call them dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Big, massive dumps all over. Yeah.
And they used to undercut the local industry. They wiped out the motorbike industry.
Who did?
And they would. The Japanese with motorbikes or whatever they were making, and they were bringing in these things.
Well, I'm sure that people chose to buy them because they were reliable and they were excellent products.
No, they were way underpriced. Yes, they were actually.
Yes,
but they were underpriced.
Underpriced.
They couldn't work it out. So Banford and JCB actually went to Japan, priced up the cost of the rubber-tired ones, like, the traditional JCBs. And they went to the company, they priced up everything down to the last nut and bolt. And they found that they were 30% underpriced.
Right.
And don't forget, they had to bring these machines from Japan. And that was put in a third, more or less a 30%, on the cost of the machine anyway.
Yeah.
So the next thing you know, Banford went to guess who? Can you remember a guy called Abbot? Get on your bike, find work. Nigel, what's his name? Norman Abbot.
Norman Abbot.
He was the Minister of Industry at the time.
Can I just check? I mean, this is all very interesting and all, but how far along this story are we? Just so I know.
Nearly at the end.
Nearly at the end. Is there a reveal at the end? I mean, is this trip going to be worth it?
It's a big reveal.
Okay, then.
You give me a chance. The next thing you know, they went to Abbot, and Abbot said, "Get more efficient. Go away. Be more efficient."
Yeah.
Right? Those are the days they were told. Banford and JCB were at their wits' end. In fact, they were on the verge of bankruptcy. And in desperation, where did they go? They went to the European Union. They took all their figures to them, and they showed that this was a dumping exhibition. And the next thing you know, that within 24 hours, that the European Union had put a ban on all of those machines coming from Japan and saved Banford. Too late for Hymac, the tracked vehicle built locally in the next valley, and they survived. They were in inches of being bankrupt.
Right.
The European Union saved them. Where's Bamford today? What's he doing?
I think he's adopted Boris Johnson.
Yeah. Wait.
Like a pet.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that little story of how the European Union
came from daytime television.
They did.
Wow. See? Not all rubbish. Excellent news there, Jeff. Good work. Next week's lesson will be geography. Geography.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Yeah, there will be a test. 0345 6060 973. Here, have I done the break yet?
I think so, yes.
We think so. We're not 100% sure. It's just that story went on so long, I've forgotten whether we've actually done a break yet. How can you tell?
It'll be on the right-hand side of your screen.
On the right-hand side of my screen. Yeah, don't worry, I'll do everything.
Shall I come through?
No, don't you dare come through. I don't know. I'll assume that I have, unless told otherwise. This is going well, yes?
No.
0345 6060 973. Let's have, let me see now, who's been waiting the longest. Bath. John.
Hey, I think you did do a break, but I think we all lost the will to live going through the Ivor the Engine rendition.
Well, that's my recollection of Open University. You turn it on, and some scrofulous oik in a bad brown suit will be droning on about some subject. Boring! And you immediately turn over to anything else.
Which was generally Ivor the Engine.
Yeah, or Trumpton.
It's very true. I would say, do you know one of your callers before, he rang up and was talking about the drawing room. I mean, he was being quite pedantic about it's a drawing room. I mean, if we were going to be pedantic and pull him up, it was actually the withdrawing room originally.
The withdrawing room, really?
Yeah, so it was where you would withdraw
right.
To have port. Not that I would in any way say that's a class thing. I mean, that guy was obviously, obsessed with Field Marshal Montgomery.
Yeah,
and,
bizarre.
Everything.
He wants to step into the 1980s. You never know, he might like it. Get a little bit more modern, mate.
Did you notice the way he emphasised the word homo and homosexual?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was just bizarre. Newsreaders used to do that as well. They used to, almost as though they were picking up a bag of doggy doo and holding it as far away from them as they possibly could.
That's exactly what it was like, Nick. It made me laugh. I almost spat my coffee out when you said it.
Yeah.
But I would say that, the whole Schofield thing. I mean, I don't know if you remember it. I mean, you were talking about the Roland Rat thing there. He was actually, he used to be in the BBC broom cupboard with Gordon the Gopher.
Yes. Right.
And it was a yellow thing, and I think half of the hoo-ha is about the fact that I think his general audience feels like he's betrayed Gordon in some way by coming out.
Come off it. His audience, they must be. I mean, the average age of the audience of that show must be 65, 70 years old.
They must be. This is it.
Ancient.
But remember, Nick, as well, we actually have a member of Parliament with spaghetti for hair. So I'm not really sure where we can go with any of this stuff, because they're the same people getting all faux pearl clutching. Oh, I can't believe it. I mean, somebody said to me earlier on today it was because he apparently friended this young colleague person because he wanted to get into TV when he was a teenager and whatever it is. But as you say, it's got nothing to do with the price of rice in China or coffee in Brazil. I don't care what he does in his personal life. I am slightly bewildered by the fact that Hollywood feels a need to do a statement like it's something from the WHO.
Well, yeah, they're all making statements like it's some sort of war crime they're trying to get past. I'm mystified about all of it. I don't get it.
But they're talking about his mental health and like he's on his own.
Crying out loud.
I mean, for Christ's sake, and it's daytime television. And by the way, just so you know, this is quite an interesting fact that. Do you know the weatherman they were talking about? I'm not going to libel or slander anybody here.
Okay, then.
Yeah, the weatherman, Fred the weatherman, he was actually charged for sexual offences against young children. And it turns out that one of his victims was the frontman to Stone Roses, Mr. Brown, Ian Brown.
Okay.
And he went on this morning and was talking about it afterwards, how he remembered him.
Oh, really?
And he testified in court. And he remembered him from when he was a kid. So yeah, I mean,
right. Well, all this is news to me. There's obviously undiscovered depths in daytime television. I was completely unfamiliar with. I thought it was just all a load of old rubbish.
Do you remember years ago, Nick? I remember it was a daytime drive time show, and you said, in your opinion, when you were driving past Shepherd's Bush, that you would, because it was always had red and yellow kind of police cordoning off things. And you said. But they might as well just drop a large net over Shepherd's Bush. And I started laughing. And I think you said something on the lines of, I don't know why they don't just arrest everybody in the BBC and work backwards.
No, I think that you must be thinking of somebody else. I've never done drive time. So that's got to be somebody else who said that. But thanks, John. 0345 6060 973. I think we've had it up to our eyeballs with facts. I don't think we need to know any more facts. And that's a fact. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
listen to him. He knows everything.
Paul says, camp people can be pigeonholed to a stereotype. Nothing is more unsettling to homophobic men than straight-acting gay men. Is that true? Is that true? How about a spider in the bath? That would be unsettling. Robbie says, I'm a 24-year-old gay guy and I know plenty of people, both heterosexual and other, who are with people upwards of 40 years old. It's not uncommon. However, anything involving LGBTQA+ seems to agitate the intolerant members of our country. They're the only people making a big deal out of something that isn't. L, yes. G, yep. B, right. T, which T? Or is it all of the T's? Q, A, plus. Well, I restate my case about the plus. I mean, if you're going to go to the lengths of saying all of those letters out, then it seems a bit offensive, just lumping everybody else under plus. Rude. Erith, hello, Steve.
Hello, Nick. Thank you for putting me on. Slight change of subject.
Please.
There is actually, sorry, I before your show started, I went to the shop and I noticed a car that does plumbing and various services, and it's got that LBG blah 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 friendly. You know, I've heard like, all you want to know is whether they're Corgi registered or something, isn't it? But
yeah, you just know whether they can fit one pipe onto another. Exactly right. Yeah.
But what I called for, Nick, was I've got my 3 monthly housing magazine thing.
What's that?
And from the housing association, they do like that tells you about local things and all sorts.
Oh yeah.
And I've noticed on this page an update on the cost of living. So this is obviously another trick up the government's sleeve for people like myself. I'm on benefits and £900 cost of living payment from the government. You can expect to receive the first payment of £301 from the 25th of April. And this will be followed by a £300 payment in the autumn and a final payment of next spring. And it goes on about if you're on disability, you'll be paid an extra £150 this summer.
Yeah.
I was just saying this is all... Some of the people that aren't, like you say, I think you should be, people should be checked for voting, whether they're... But when some people are just going to see this and think the government are giving away money left, right and centre...
Right.
And they can't afford to pay nurses and things, but
it doesn't sound like a great deal of money. I mean, you could so £300 for what period of time? 3 months or 6 months? What is it?
It's £900 altogether.
For over what period of time?
From
a year.
April. Well, I'm guessing it's a year till next spring, 2024.
Right.
It goes on till.
Yeah, we have some of the lowest levels of benefits in the whole of Europe. So whatever little extra they are going to throw your way, giving you, whatever spare change they can find in their pockets, don't think that that's them being generous, because it's...
it's not. I don't think
the opposite of that.
I know that, but I'm just saying that some certain people of a certain ilk, that they will just vote for them, literally, thinking that. And... Because some of this, it goes for universal credit too, and a lot of people on universal credit do work, don't they?
I don't know. Do they? Yes, they do. Yes, that is right. Well, it's something of the order of, I can't remember whether it's 60% or 40%. I'll go with 40. I think 40% of the people that are on benefits are in work. It's just that the work that they do pays them such a tiny amount that they can't actually survive on it. Yeah, that's the high-wage, high-skill economy that we've heard so much about.
Yeah. I'm not very good at explaining things, but my point is that this is just another thing that they're doing to get votes, isn't it?
Just before the next general election, they'll start chucking money around like drunken sailors, and they will give us all a tax cut and say, "Look how Look how great we are. Vote for us. But what you have to keep in mind, Steve, is the previous 5 years. Don't forget that. All right. Right. Okay. Thanks a lot, mate. Got to go. 0345 6060 973. Sophie says these orange idiots need stopping. They stopped the rugby final earlier for nothing. No one is listening to them, instead hating them more, says Sophie. Yeah, well, it's a message that needs to be heard. I'm just not sure that they're going the right way about delivering the message. I mean, they threw those Egypts that superglued themselves to some of the world's finest art. I mean, that is just flat out wrong. There's other ways of drawing attention to yourself without, interfering with a Van Gogh. And there's other ways of drawing attention to yourself without chucking orange powder all over somebody's finely tweezered garden. And there was there's another one of these wokey-cokey stories.
Okie-dokie.
The Chelsea Flower Show is too white, too middle-aged and too middle-class, TV gardener Monty Don said, which is so obvious that no one could surely complain, you'd think. And you'd be wrong about that. The Warriors on Woke had a collective fit that you could hear through concrete. They said... And I don't know anything about gardening or any other subject come to that. But I can't think of anything that's whiter and more middle-aged and middle-class than the Chelsea Flower Show, outside of the electric vehicle charging point in a Waitrose car park. I mean, have you seen the Chelsea Flower Show on the telly? Have you ever seen anything more white and middle-class and middle-aged than that? Monty Don said there's an element of truth to claims that the Royal Horticultural Society's flagship annual event is a festival for the home counters. Yeah, of course it is. I mean, possibly because the price of a ticket for two people to go to the Chelsea Flower Show is about the same price as a week's holiday in Spain, a bucket of paella, a bottle of sunburn lotion and a souvenir sombrero. Approximately. Monty Don, 67, said white middle-aged people can and do make lovely gardens. But he believes there's a great change unfolding. He said that young people from all backgrounds and races must have a say in British gardening culture for the sake of its future. Well, they've got to have a garden first, haven't they? He said people from every background, race, colour and creed are central to how we garden, what we grow, and critically how this relates to our nurture of the natural world. Yeah, I'm not sure that people really think about that when they're just, cutting the grass, do they? He says, climate change means that my children and grandchildren's generations have a vital stake in how we act. Yeah, which is the Fury Monger's bingo card, virtually completed in one sentence, isn't it? Climate, race, colour, middle class, white and change. It's everything they hate, all grouped together. And, in case that didn't do it for the Warriors on Woke, the Royal Horticultural Society Ambassador for Diversity and Inclusion said that classic English gardens made by double-barrel named designers are putting non-white communities off the Chelsea Flower Show. And so that's climate, race, colour, middle-class, white, change, diversity and inclusion. I think that's full house. Full house. Let's see now. We got Sandbach. Hello, John.
Yeah. You know what? I can't stop laughing at things that you say on this programme. And it completely diverts me from what I was thinking originally phoned in about.
This show is all over the shop.
I know, it's brilliant. It's a great laugh. You were talking about Farage earlier on.
Oh, yeah.
About voting.
Yes.
I lived in Australia for 16 years where we had proportional representation.
And they forced you to vote as well, yes?
Yeah, and nobody thought it was a problem. Just people just got on with it.
Well, how does it work in Australia? So they have a general election, and you have to vote. But what happens if you don't?
Well, there's a fine. I think basically in their financial system, it's a nominal fine. It's either dollars. I'm going back like to the 70s and 80s and stuff.
Okay. Right. So let's assume it's a bit more than that. But even if it was 10, then, you know, if you passed £10 on the street, you would bend down to pick it up, wouldn't you? Or if somebody said, just walk 400 yards down to your local church or school and I'll give you a tenner, you'd probably do it. I would.
Yeah, that's right. So it was a nominal fine. But, I mean, the cases of people not actually voting and being fined, I can't even remember anything happened about that. It just really didn't happen.
All right, it's just them doing their civic duty.
Yeah, just people came out and voted. There was the grumpy ones who didn't want to vote anyway, full stop. But people just came, and the voting things were always on a Saturday.
Right.
So it's leisure time.
Yeah.
So no excuse for saying I've been working all day and all that kind of stuff. No, Saturday was basically your leisure time, and the thingies were open, and nobody complained. Just went.
And how did they? Because Australia is so big and people are so spread out. I mean, I know that most people in Australia, like everywhere else, they live in cities, but there is a great middle part that's all spread out. How do they work? Is it like here where you're always about a half a mile from a voting booth, or is it like America where you have to get in a car and drive for 3 hours and then stand in a line for 6 days before you are allowed to vote?
No, I didn't live that far out, but I never heard anybody complain about travelling to. But anyway, we didn't have a problem about trying to stop black people voting there anyway.
Right, like in America, yeah.
Like in America, yeah. Everybody voted, and they just did it.
Well, it makes sense to me. I mean, I don't see why you would want to stop people voting unless you had ulterior motives, unless you thought that by doing that, then you would have a better chance of winning. And, of course, Smug said the quiet part out loud.
I don't know anything.
He does. He does know something. And he actually admitted that that's what the Tories are doing, trying to gerrymander the election.
It backfired on him. And also there, you would have people from political parties outside the booths, you know, where you went to vote.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be inside, they'd be outside.
Right.
And they'd be handing you their leaflets on the last minute. Would you like this leaflet from this party or whatever party they were belonging to?
Yeah.
They would be able to pass you a how to vote thing because you'd be voting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You chose your preference, wouldn't you?
Right.
I mean, the thing is, what worries me about that system here is we're too stupid. Don't think we could get out of that, crowd.
I think that's really doing this country down, John. We're not more stupid than Australians. I think I can say that with some degree of confidence.
Well, put it this way, we emigrated in 76. We walked into the butcher's and we said, can we have half a pound of mincemeat? He said, the butcher started laughing. He said, and this is after we'd got into the common market. He started laughing. What do you mean half? You must be Ponzi, he said, because it's 250 grams here. And I think we still talking yards and feet and inches.
Yeah, I felt absolutely certain that was going to end in a joke. But we were disappointed. Oh, well, never mind. Better luck next time. Thanks a lot, John. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet @LBC. Text 84850.
Right, so what are we doing?
Given we are doing a radio show, but it does remind me that I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin.
Oh, right, yeah.
In which we try to solve people's problems while guffawing like seals. Now, if you want us to have a bash at your issue, it's very simple. You just send it to the following address, nickandcarol@global.com, NICKANDCAROL global.com and prepare yourself for total satisfaction.
Oh, right, yeah.
Ask for it by name. On an internet near you, What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol? That podcast available on Global Player. Comes out on Monday. It's about an hour long. If you wish to be amused, I think you'll find it right up your alley.
Yeah.
What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol? Alicante, Ben.
Oh, hi, Nick. Thanks for taking my call. I suppose to go back to the beginning of your programme, I find it absolutely baffling that a TV presenter that I remember as a nipper being he presented children's TV, didn't he, in about 1983 or something like that, yeah?
Yeah, I have a vague memory. He did a thing with a rat. I don't know any more than that, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the rat at all. Just remember him on telly. I had no idea he was still on telly. So, perhaps it's because I'm here in Alicante.
Yeah.
Literally no idea. I'm now fully conversant with the fact that he's clearly one of the biggest stars that Britain's ever produced. Again, I do return to the country quite regularly. But I find it totally baffling that this guy is being held, a daytime TV presenter that most of us, let's face it, have never seen and never heard of, or if we've heard of him...
Heard of him, but we don't watch his shows because, we're busy doing other things in the morning.
Exactly, right? This guy, a daytime TV presenter, is being held to a higher moral standard than kings and prime ministers.
Yeah.
And I find that baffling. And the fact that it's occupied the entire British media. I'm talking about the good British media. It's bonkers.
All of it, yeah.
Bonkers.
It is mad.
You see it from Spain, and you think the country's gone mental.
This country has lost its mind. Let's put it like that, shall we?
Yeah, well, I'd put it in... it's gone Garrity, basically.
Right.
That's what I'd say.
I don't know what that means.
I just think it's extraordinary.
Right, it is. It's beyond my understanding, and
it's deeply depressing in some ways because we are a great country. We could be a great country. It's just that our concerns seem to be so piffling. When people can't afford to eat, there's food banks all over the place. I mean, mates of mine are telling me that there's warm banks now.
Yes,
which is just staggering.
Well, there's people who ride the bus during the winter time because their home was so cold that's the way that they could stay warm and keep alive. They rode the bus. Good grief! That's what's happening in this country, and people are obsessed about the travails of a television star. And exactly right, holding him to a higher standard than prime ministers and kings. Yeah, well put there, Ben. What's the weather in Alicante like at the moment? I heard that you were getting the worst drought in 1,000 years in the south of Spain, and B, you were up to your eyeballs in water because of floods. Which is it?
Both are true. What happened was that there hadn't been any rain since the beginning of November, and then just at the beginning of this month we started getting water, and then we started getting really bad floods. I mean, Alicante not so bad, but Benidorm it was a diluvium. It's only shortly up the road, but Benidorm's got its own kind of little ecosystem going on,
right? And
that was crazy. It's calmed down a little bit now, so that it's kind of your basic British drizzle at the minute.
Is it?
Yeah. It's nice. It's a nice way to be riding home,
right?
But yeah, I mean, I think. Look, I complained about the rain recently, and I was told off by my Spanish friends because they said, "Look, without the rain," because apparently a lot of they were thinking of introducing, basically introducing ways in which they could stop people using water, which would have been very bad. It would have closed down bars and things like that.
Right.
So the floods and the water has been very good. It's also made the place look more verdant because it was beginning to look a bit like a spaghetti western where just everything was
tumbleweeds.
Just kind of,
The thing with the thing with the rain falling on very, very dry ground is it doesn't really go in; it just goes off, doesn't it? And then that's when floods occur.
Then you get floods.
Yeah.
This is why the drizzle is a really good thing. This is why this light drizzle, which kind of settles and then permeates the ground, is great. But
do Spanish people know what to do with drizzle? I mean, we grew up with drizzle. We do drizzle for a living, we do, but the Spanish people know what to do with drizzle.
Well, there was a waiter the other day that came out because I was about to sit down and there was this light drizzle. I thought, I can sit in light drizzle. I'm not bothered by that. It's just, And this guy came out and he sort of looked at the chairs and saw a little bit of water on them. And I was about to do what I normally do, this plastic chair, just tip it forward and sit down. Just tip it forward, get rid of the little bit of drizzle.
Yeah.
And he looked completely baffled. And then he recognised that I was English.
British
and just thought,
people.
Okay, he's clearly mental. So,
Right.
So just let him sit down. Let him sit in a wet chair if he wants to.
Yeah.
But no, they are confused. See, when there's a storm, they just bring all the furniture indoors. But when there's light drizzle, should they leave it outside? Should they bring it in?
I'm with you. I mean, I sit outside in the winter with a heated blanket over me and an umbrella. I will be outside when it's snowing. I don't care. I just like being outside. And a slight drizzle is going to put me off sitting outside. But, in this country, they just don't allow you to do it. Oh, no, you can't sit outside. There's a light wind. They just won't let you sit outside between the end of August all the way through winter and spring, right up to the beginning of summer. It's as though nobody wants to do it. Not me. I do. Yeah, thanks a lot, Ben. 0345 6060 973. Tom says, I've just heard Liz Truss is going to be handing out 12 knighthoods to her allies. She has allies? Yeah, I would call them enablers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not allies, enablers. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nica@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC.
We have never had it so good.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
And I can't stand him.
0345 6060 973. In relation to what we were talking about some while ago, about Americans not really understanding the British penchant. God, I hate that word. The penchant that we have over here for blokes dressing up as women for comedic purposes. This was before drags took over the world. They just couldn't understand why, all of our top comedians dressed up as women, and they didn't like it much either. And then I mentioned that Queen, the band, did the video when I Want to Be Free, or whatever that song was called, and Freddie Mercury was doing a hoovering in a dress, and that was pretty much the end of the American career for Queen, or it significantly impacted their ability to earn. And then it changed when Bohemian Rhapsody was featured in, and as Jeff quite correctly says, Wayne's World. That's right. And they're all listening to it in the car, and then the guitar bit kicks in, and they all start, headbanging. Wayne's World, that's it.
Rock and roll!
Finally, we got there. Only took a couple of hours. Covent Garden. Hello, Alicia.
Oh, hi. Oh, my God, I've been waiting for ages.
I know. Haven't you been waiting a long time? Sorry about that, Alicia.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, you and other people are saying the whole Philip Schofield thing ain't serious.
No.
It is quite serious, because imagine all the kids that studied media and stuff, because I did media in college, and some kids have to write about their best presenter, and imagine they picked him. And then on top of that, all the adverts he gets, it means he's trustworthy and just everything. It is a big deal.
No, everything that you just said implies that it's not a big deal. I mean, okay, adverts, that's one thing. If people want you to advertise their product, then you have to be scandal. You've got to be scandal-free. As for media students writing essays about their favourite presenter, what's that got to do with anything?
They're going to be devastated. Like, fans will be devastated. Like,
fans? The average audience for that show must be 70 years old. What are you talking about?
Young. When you're a student, you have days off. Like, obviously, when I was a student, I had days off, and you watch it on your days off. Or
days
if you're ill,
off?
whatever.
Get on with your work.
No, but it is quite serious.
It's not serious.
Because you don't think deep, isn't it? Like, everyone's different, isn't it? His character wasn't Jack the Lad or like Phil or Mitchell or something. His character was like a clean, do you know what I mean? Character.
Alicia, who did you vote for in the last general election?
Why?
I think we just heard all we need to know. Guilty. His character. He's doing a show for pensioners. What difference does it make? All he's got to be is smiley. I mean, they just do smiling for a living. If we have been told everything, and God, we've been told so much. I mean, it's like story after story after story after story. It's just incessant. So if we know everything, then this is just a bunch of nothing that has been hyped up by the press, and most of the press is right-wing. And I'm sure that they are delighting in this distraction because it takes the mind off the serial failings of this government, specifically the immigration numbers which just came out. So he can promise and promise and promise, and the promising things that he can't deliver is Rishi Sunak's number one priority.
It's the country's number one priority. It's my number one priority up and down the country, and that will be our focus.
You want to grip it, Rishi? Get a grip, seriously. I screwed that one up. Never mind. Anyway, thanks a lot, Alicia, for, whatever that was. I didn't really understand it myself, but, it fits right in with everything else on this show. Dave says, my aunt has gone on holiday to Skegness with my uncle. You'd have to have been listening earlier on to get that. By the way, if you weren't listening earlier on and you want to catch up on this show, then we put the entire programme up online as a podcast. We take the news and the ads out, which means it takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity. And then you won't get people throwing orange powder all over your place, because you will be saving the environment. Now, if you've got one of them stupid smart speakers, then the magic phrase is play Nick Abbot The Whole Show podcast. And that's what it's called. It's on Global Player. It's only on Global Player. Nick Abbot, The Whole Show podcast. The Friday and Saturday night shows get squirted up the internet for your convenience. Caroline says, never mind about ants. Where have all the ladybirds gone? Huh. That's a good point. Where have all the ladybirds gone? Oh, there's some strange things happening this year. Have you noticed? I mean, I have been talking about the preponderance of white flowers, hawthorns and daisies and cow parsley, just clouds of white on the on verges, where the greenery sits. Just clouds of white, like it's been snowing. They are really having a moment, white flowers. And but ladybirds, where have they gone? Junior says, I remembered Neil Rogers from my holidays in Florida at my sister's place. He had a no automated sound just like yours, yes?
No.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he did, yeah. There's a couple of his bits that I stole directly. I'm trying to remember which ones they are. I can't off the top of my head. But, yes, that's where most of this comes from. Neil Rogers. Best radio talent ever. He's still dead, still the best. Brussels, Emma.
Hello.
Emma.
Hi, Nick.
Yes, Emma.
So I was hoping to bring some jollity to the
Joy and light.
sad
Thank
stuff.
goodness.
Yes. Well, it's sort of a bit of a dodgy story. I mean, we all know about what's happened with Chris Packham, and he won his libel case against these rather sad people who...
Chris Packham has said he's been vindicated after a judge found that he had been subjected to an online ideological campaign accusing him of fraud and dishonesty before awarding him £90,000 in damages.
Oh, my word. So the thing I thought you'd find quite amusing, which I was telling my mum earlier, and I mean, you just can't find this not funny. So basically what happened was... one of the accusations they had against him was that there was a death threat letter he had written, handwritten letter he'd received, and he'd been quite public about this handwritten letter. And so what these people did was they went off and thought they'd found Chris Packham's handwriting. And they got a supposed expert in handwriting in. It's just so funny. A handwriting expert in. And they said, look, can you compare the handwriting of this death threat letter versus the handwriting of possibly
they're suggesting
Chris
that he
Packham.
wrote a death threat to himself. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was the accusation, right? That was the accusation. And they got an expert supposedly in handwriting, and this guy actually said something like, yes, I can scientifically say on the record that this is the person who wrote this death this death letter.
Science shows.
He actually used that word. He said scientifically proven. The thing is, as the judge highlighted if you read it, it's a very interesting, I mean, it's one of the most riveting legal reports I've ever read.
Right. That's not a very high bar, though, is it? Let's be honest. But go on.
Well, maybe. But the thing is that it was, it might have been the same writer, but it turns out that what they downloaded from Customs House, what they thought was Chris Packham's handwriting, was not his handwriting at all. It was his accountant.
Right. Yeah, this is the second time we've had an accountant's story on this show.
And one...
It's all about counting.
Two...
Accountants.
3. 6 million.
No! Bad accountant. All right, thanks for the good news there, Emma. 0345 6060 973. John emails, why are British people whinging and whining about having to queue at airports and ferry ports for a couple of hours? Yet a few months ago they were quite happy to queue all day and night to pass a coffin. Says John. Scott says, on the matter of Elon Musk and his Frankenstein finagling, I think he has already been at work with Liz Truss, but she blew a circuit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, haven't seen it for a while. Maybe she's getting rebooted. Well, somebody should at least give that a go. Let's try turning Liz off and on again. The Liz bot. Who's with me? I mean, it couldn't get any worse, right? Westminster, Hassan.
Hi, Nick. I wanted to remind you that we have just passed the 100th birthday of Henry Kissinger.
Henry Kissinger is 100 years old.
Yes, and he has been the leading war criminal on this planet for a number of years now. And we should sort of remember.
There's a lot of things that are that he should regret. Yes.
Yes, but the remarkable thing, he's never expressed a single word of regret for the millions of people that were affected by his illegal bombing of Cambodia, for the massacres he facilitated in Bangladesh, in East Timor, under Pol Pot. I mean, he got the Nobel Prize for his peace efforts, which is
plus he talks like this, which is really disturbing to hear.
I think American writer said that after you have visited Cambodia, you can never shake the urge to beat Kissinger to death with your own bare hands.
Wow.
Which was a remarkable statement. But I think we should also remember some of the other war criminals around, including...
Oh, no, hang on a minute. No. Including George Bush, did you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's war criminals here, there and everywhere, Hassan. Let's not name them on this show. I don't want to get dragged down into, like a catalogue of war criminals. But I do appreciate the offer. Thanks for that. He's 100 years old. Isn't that great?
No.
No, still living. Yeah, The Guardian did a big thing on him today, I think. Henry Kissinger turns 100 on Saturday, as in today, I think. But yesterday, get it right. But his legacy has never been in worse shape. Though many commentators now speak of a tortured and deadly legacy for decades, Kissinger was lauded by all quarters of the political and media establishment. Yeah, he was some sort of... he was like a political rock star, wasn't he? His top-secret work, which he was doing in the 1970s, has aged poorly. Within a few short years, he masterminded illegal bombings in Laos and Cambodia and enabled genocide in East Timor and East Pakistan. Meanwhile, Kissinger was known among the Beltway, as in the Washington socialites, as the playboy of the Western Wing. Ugh. And on and on it goes. You see, if Kissinger was appearing on daytime television, if he was a host on daytime TV, he would have been fired a long time ago, and they'd have probably closed down the American government. But fortunately for him, he was only doing something as insignificant as, geopolitics. Scott says, on the matter of... No, read that. John says, read that. Wow, I am way ahead of schedule. Dave says, stay away from the birds. I've told you before, and that bird you saw years ago was a pied wagtail. Well, it might have been. It was a silly-looking thing. Its legs were too long. Somebody should do something about that. Phil says, has Smug left a note on Bodger's desk yet saying, sorry I missed you for the last 9 months?
My view.
Yeah, my view too. What are we doing paying Boris Johnson? Not only for his legal bills, but for his wages. What has he done for us lately? Can anybody think? I mean, it's an absolute outrage that we're paying that man's wages when he doesn't appear to be doing the job that we're paying him to do. Anyway, I might get on to that in a while. I haven't talked about the flake yet. But then you didn't remind me, did you? It's your fault. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Everything is going extremely well.
You bet your life it is. 0345 6060 973. Sheffield, Alan.
Hi there, Nick. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good. Nick, I want to talk about Philip Schofield for a minute. I watched the 9 o'clock BBC News on TV. They had 5 minutes of the facts of this case. Then they brought in a commentator to what's the bigger significance of all of this. Look, I'm 75 years of age.
75.
I'm a very straight guy.
Right. Yes.
What's happening here? Is this homophobic?
Yeah, all right. You can't use phrases like that. He meant well, but he just said something he shouldn't oughter. Yeah, I am mystified as well. I just don't get it. If we've heard everything that needs to be heard about this this incident, this issue, then it don't make no sense to me. Like, it really doesn't. I mean, his audience, they must be, on average, 65, 70 years old. I mean, that's the audience that watches daytime television, isn't it? Retired, long-term sick, and OAPs. Who else would be interested in any of that stuff that they do on that show? And having said that, I have got absolutely no idea what they do on that show, but I can hazard a guess. Cookery. High street clothes being modelled by people you don't know, and ways to save money on heating and stuff like that. That's probably it, isn't it? and then interviewing the odd celebrity who's got a book out, or a new TV show, or a film. And they string it out for an hour and a half, and then they make £1 million a year, something like that. And it's a living. What I don't understand is this whole thing about, oh, well, he had an affair and he didn't tell us. Yeah, and? Why would he tell you? It's an affair. You don't tell people about an affair. It's an affair. And you particularly, totally and absolutely don't tell the other half about the affair. But people are going on about, oh, I've been personally slighted by him because he told me a lie. I asked him whether he was having an affair, and he said no. Of course he blooming well did. It was an affair. I just don't get it. I really don't. I am mystified. Anyway, thanks a lot, mate. Phil says, oh no, I've read this, but it does bring me on to talking about Bodge. Has Smug left a note on Bodge's desk saying, sorry I missed you for the last 9 months?
My view?
Yeah, my view too. Exactly. Okay, here's how you can get legal aid. You can qualify for legal aid if you're Boris Johnson.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Or if you're on low income or receive income-related benefits. Well, that's not him. I mean, he does get benefits, but not income-related. You can qualify for legal aid if you have very little in savings, investments or property, up to £8,000. Well, he's got more than that. Way more. Your gross monthly income should be £2,657 or less. And then you can get legal aid. Maybe. If you've got more than 4 child dependents, you can add £222 for this figure for the 5th child and each further child. Well, how many children is it, Bodge? Let's say 10, to be sure. So that's about £4,000 a month. That's the limit for legal aid for a man with 10 children. But Bodger makes that in 20 seconds. That is true. 20 seconds. He makes £4,000 in 20 seconds. He actually does. He was paid about £250,000 for a speech to some bank. That speech cannot possibly have lasted more than 20 minutes, which is £12,500 a minute, or £4,000 for every 20 seconds. And we, poor dopes who pay taxes, are paying his legal bill. This bloke that we're paying £87,000 a year, plus £250,000 expenses to be an MP, plus subsidised food and drink, and who doesn't appear to pay for anything with his own money, is getting his legal bill, which looks like it's heading for the £500,000 mark, from us poor dopes.
The little people.
Yeah, not leprechauns. And he's gallivanting around the world, meanwhile, at our expense and singularly failing to do the one job that we are paying him to do.
Well, the whole world's gone crazy.
Yeah, the old bag is right. The whole world has, in fact, gone crazy. I mean, if you need the state to pay your legal bill, you need to be poor. But the only people who are poor in this case is us poor dopes who pay taxes to fund the glorious lifestyle of the rich and shameless.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Exactly. The bill to the taxpayer for the former Prime Minister Bodger Johnson's Partygate inquiry has risen to £250,000. But that's just the half of it, because he fired them and has now instructed a new lot at our expense. He's being investigated by MPs over whether he misled Parliament over parties held in Downing Street during lockdown. And his old set of legal beagles was led by the highly expensive Lord Panic. Exactly. These are the people that he took to that televised meeting of the Commons Privileges Committee in March, where he denied knowingly or deliberately misleading Parliament. He said,
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Yes.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Uh-huh.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Right.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Yeah, sure you did. If they find him in contempt of Parliament, he could be suspended as an MP. What difference would that make? He doesn't work as an MP. I mean, where in the world is he at the moment? I don't know, but I bet it's nowhere near Uxbridge. The latest register of interests for MPs shows he earned more than £5.5 million since getting chucked out of number 10 for the things he did. Not the woke blob of activists who have accused him of doing the things that he did. His comeuppance came from his own actions. We know he partied. He's been fined for doing so. I mean, his tenure in number 10 made that address the epicentre of criminality for the whole country, if not the continent. There can't have been more people fined for breaking the law in any one place in history. And those business meetings are now legendary. Apart from one particular one that had a shroud of secrecy pulled across it so tight that light can't escape. Curious. But don't worry about the cost of defending the indefensible bodge, because the National Audit Office is going to scrutinise it.
Oh, fabulous.
We're saved. The National Audit Office scrutinises government spending. Well, have they found where the £21 billion went to fraud during COVID?
No.
No. They skipped that part. We don't know. A spokesmodel said the National Audit Office will publish its report on the Cabinet Office's 2022 to 23 accounts when the audit is complete, which we are planning to be this summer. Summer. Yeah. When Parliament is empty. When they're all on holiday and no one will be paying attention. Nothing to see here. Please move along. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
Isn't it just? 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nica@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. I should remind you that one of the 3 podcasts that I do is called the Nick Abbot Habit, and it is clips of old shows. And I'm going through 2019, and it really is kind of bizarre to relive what was going on then. I mean, a lot of it was kind of the same, a little bit. I mean, there were different leaders, and they were trying to do slightly different things, but it was all a bit of a clown show even then. Bodger Johnson hadn't put one of his giant feet through the door at number 10, not at that moment. It's about half an hour long, comes out on Mondays, and if you wish to be amused, I think you'll love it. It's called The Nick Abbot Habit. It's on Global Player. Ask for it by name on an internet near you, The Nick Abbot Habit.
Leading Britain's conversation, Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
So they opened their big mouths and out came talk. Talk.
Let's talk to Jane in Alicante. Hello, Jane.
Oh, good evening, Nick.
Jane.
As always, thank you for your sanity. I would say that, but it's true.
Right.
I want to say also that your new glamorous assistant has got a lovely voice.
Uh-oh.
Oh, sorry, he has.
Okay, then.
And terribly polite, which is delightful.
Polite? Well, you got to be polite.
Be polite!
Exactly.
Absolutely, it costs nothing. The weather.
Yeah.
Yes, we went 5 months without any rain at all.
Blimey.
And that is so awful, Nick. I mean, I'm a bit of an elemental person myself.
You're a what?
Elemental. I like the wind, the rain, the nature, the thunder, the storms.
Oh, right.
We had nothing. We just had sun. It was just like a nightmare.
Isn't that what Spain is all about, though?
Well, yeah, but, oh my goodness, May has been delightful. We've had thunderstorms, we've had rain, we've had wind. Oh, and we're not sweating and we're not dying of the heat.
What's the temperature during the day there at the moment?
Oh, today was a very pleasant 22.
Right. Well, that is not bad. That's about perfect, I'd say.
I totally agree, Nick.
As long as it doesn't get cold in the evening. Because the beautiful thing about going on holiday, well, you don't really get it much in this country, is that you go out with just wearing a T-shirt, knowing that you don't need to take a coat with you and a jumper and all the rest of it for when the sun goes down, because it's going to stay warm, right?
But I'm like you, Nick. I don't go out. I sit on the balcony with a bottle of wine, which I've just bought for €2.50, which is a lovely red wine.
€2.50, and
€2.50.
Right,
Nick,
you're gonna drink that, are you?
Oh, I'm sitting here now drinking it.
Right.
And I just stare outside, you know, like when you go away and you don't go out.
Yeah, I would imagine that drinking too much of a wine that costs £2.50 or €2.50 a bottle, I mean, you'll be seeing cross-eyed in a short while.
No. This is. If you want it cheaper, you just go over the road and the barrel, and help yourself, and that's €1.20.
Oh, that is ridiculous. I mean, for €2.50, there can't be any price on the wine that's in the bottle. It must be all on the bottle and the label and the transport. You're not paying for wine at all.
Well, no, this is why I live here. Why do you think I'd moved here? Because
if I were you, I wouldn't stand up quickly. That's probably excellent. So am I. Don't make any sudden moves, Jane.
It's like, you know,
very, very slowly.
You can go out and buy 4 bottles of decent wine for €10.
You can't. It's impossible.
Yes, you can.
No, you cannot do that. Decent is the operative word in that sentence. You cannot buy 4 bottles of decent wine for €10. Impossible. Cannot be done. Spend a little bit more, Jane. Go on, treat yourself. You're worth it.
No, hang on. Whoa. I'm telling you, I've got a wine here, which was a bit more expensive. It was €3, and I had to...
See, she just cut herself. That wasn't me who did that. She just cut herself off. That's what I'm saying. You're starting to see double. Once you see a haze coming off the tabletop there, Jane, that's an indication that you've had too much.
Booze.
A little bit too much of that cheap wine, which I would imagine also works as a kitchen cleaner. You pour it down the toilet and it removes all stubborn stains. Excellent value for money. Thanks, Jane. 0345 6060 973. Martin says, in America, dressing up in drag is abnormal and a sin, but it is completely normal to blow someone's brains out with a shotgun. Well, that's true. Except they don't use shotguns. Get with the times, Martin. In America, if some kid's basketball bounces into your yard, then it is legal, decent, honest and true to teach them a lesson with a military assault weapon. It's what Jesus would want. I think that's true. Let's see now. Blackmore. Julian.
Hi, Nick. Can I give you a scenario?
A scenario?
Yeah, well, Boris Johnson is married with children. Okay? He has a 17-year-old friend who he gets a job in the civil service, and when she's 18, he begins having an affair with her. Do you not think that would be big news?
Do I think that it would be an impediment to him becoming the Prime Minister of this country? No, because we know he's a serial finagler.
Oh, so he gets a free pass then?
Well, apparently, as does the King, as does Donald Trump, as does Hillary's ex, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. I've got a picture of him, but what's his name? Oh, that's embarrassing. Hillary's ex. No, her current.
Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton is the right answer.
Correct.
Yeah, Bill Clinton.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bill. And pretty much every other powerful man that you have ever heard of. Affairs is what they do. I mean, if we were to fire absolutely every bloke or woman who had an affair while also being married to somebody else, then there wouldn't be very many people that are still employed over the age of, let's say, 30 years old.
Okay, so it's not an abuse of power.
It depends on whether it was or not. I mean, if they were both willing, then how is that an abuse of power?
It could be coercive, couldn't it? I mean,
could be, but there's no indication that it was. I mean, you're just making up stories now, Julian. You're just adding to this. It seems to me, if we've been told everything, it just seems like a giant pile of nonsense to me. And people are talking about the people who run ITV, that they are about to get fired. I mean, why? And what is his work colleagues? And they're saying, well, I asked him whether he had an affair, and he said no. Well, of course he did. It's an affair. Of course he said no. What's it got to do with them? He worked with her. He wasn't married to Holly, what's her name? Mystifying. Don't get it. Anyway, thanks a lot, Julian. Good effort. No sale. Sue texts, it's not that Fishy Rishi said that he reads Jilly Cooper novels, it's the fact that he said it out loud. Did he? Did he really? Fishy Rishi, you read Jilly Cooper novels?
I'm gripping it.
He's gripping that novel as we speak. Chris says, I'm surprised she has said what she said. I thought they were friends. Talk about kicking someone when they're down. No, they were telly-friends. They're pretending. People on TV who sit next to each other on a sofa, they pretend to be friends. It's an illusion. They're work colleagues. It's like you go to the office and you pretend to get along with people that you don't actually like. People that you would never socialise with, but you don't immediately pick a fight and start wrestling them to the ground the moment you see them, even though you might want to do that. You pretend to get along. Same with TV. I mean, they're people, not robots.
Affirmative.
Oh, even though sometimes they may seem like that. Hull, Charles.
Oh, hi, Nick. Actually, you just sort of mentioned, Jilly Cooper's Riders book?
No, I don't.
Well, it was just mentioned a minute earlier.
Jilly Cooper was, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you see, I went out with a young lady who was a yoga teacher, and she said she read the book in bed with one hand. Well,
okay. All right. Thanks, Charles. I don't know where that's going, but I know I don't want to go there. Paul says, a man has an affair and quits his job. Front page news. Man causes the country to divide and states that we messed up Brexit. Not front page news. Yeah, like inside news, and it was kind of hard to find. I found it in the Express.
I'm a nutcase.
Uncle Nige saying that, he's very, very disappointed with Brexit.
Brexit's going great.
That's what I heard. He was complaining a little bit.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
And he said that, it is possible that he might come back with a different party.
We've got a few idiots in our party.
He'll probably have a few idiots in that party too. I've got loads of these. I could sit here all night playing them.
This is absolute tosh.
Yeah, I know. Sue emails, given that Elon Musk's SpaceX Starship rocket, apparently the largest and most powerful rocket ever built, blew up miles after the launch, it was deemed a success by Elon Musk, but obviously not a complete success. I'll take a rain check on his brain chip. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Elon, you first. Tell us how it goes. Apparently, he's already had one of his brain chips in, and this was his statement as to what happened afterwards. Yeah, great success. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Zach, South Wales. Hello, Zach.
Nick.
Yes, Zach.
Good afternoon. Good morning.
Good night.
I just wanted to talk about our friend Boris.
Yes.
I seen. I'm not sure if I can state what the news channel was, but there was an interview that he was recorded at an airport.
Mm.
I think it might have been yesterday. And when we think of this act of his, and it just struck me that it really was an act, but he was talking to the camera, and then there was a moment where the bodyguards were kind of, given the perception of protecting him. But it just got more unbelievable the further it went on. Really,
I'm really confused. Who was he being interviewed by?
He was being. Can I say the?
Yeah, why not?
News outlet.
Well, just tell me who it was.
It was Sky News. It was.
Okay.
I'm at the airport, but it's freely available on the internet. But it just struck me that he is in the full lock act, isn't he?
Well, it's an act that he's been using the same one, like the same haircut. He's been using the same act and same haircut since he was a child, and it's allowed him to get away with everything his entire life. So why would he change now? It's what the whining is all about is that it doesn't appear to be working anymore, that people are actually calling him to account. He just doesn't get a pass on everything. And his actions are catching up with him. He is actually being subject to consequences, and that I think underlines the complaining,
whinging and whining and moaning.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing that I'm concerned about, and I know it's issued in every corner of the country, but is this actually helping him?
Is what helping him?
Is this sort of publicity helping him? Because it doesn't seem to be working very bad for him, does it really?
No, when you say publicity, what are you talking about? Like me discussing him or what?
No. I mean, we look at the newspapers. We've got the Daily Mail pumping it, and I mean, he's not doing too bad off it, and that's at our detriment, really, isn't it? So.
Well, I don't think the publicity has got anything to do with how well he is doing, because he's not doing well here. He has gone elsewhere to earn his money. I mean, I don't even know where he is now. Is he in America? All we know is where he isn't, and that is in Uxbridge, working on behalf of his constituents. The thing that we actually pay him money to do. The nerve of the man is just absolutely staggering. Why are we still paying him? I want our money back. Thanks, Zach. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Come on, we're running late.
Yes, we are indeed running late. Let's have a call in Croydon. Evelyn.
Hello, Nick. You were talking to a gentleman, this last caller, who was talking about Boris Johnson at the airport. I'm surprised he didn't mention a part of what we saw. I'm absolutely appalled. This person wants to be Prime Minister again.
Ugh.
He was scruffy. When he swung his bag over his shoulders, his garment went up. His trousers were nearly falling off, and you saw his bottom.
Oh,
disgusting! Absolutely disgusting.
Really?
I mean, what is it?
Even Carrie doesn't want to see that.
I know. I didn't want to. You're right. It was absolutely disgusting.
That man should not be anywhere near the reins of power. He can't even keep his bottom in.
I mean, what is it with the people who want him to be Prime Minister? I mean, haven't they got any pride or any self-respect?
I think that they just realise that they have no chance in and of themselves of clinging on to power unless they have somebody who is like Boris Johnson, who has in the past shown that they had a certain amount of popularity. The weird thing about Boris Johnson is, if you look at the graph of his popularity, it peaked above zero just for a brief period under the first lockdown. You remember way back in 2020, the first lockdown, which was kind of like a wartime feeling. You know, in time of war, the country gets behind the leader initially. But then we realised, the danger that we were all in by this catastrophic clown show that we had going on in Number 10, and his popularity nosedived. And I think the only Prime Minister in recent memory who had a worse popularity rating was the Trust bot.
Absolutely.
If you can believe that.
Nick, did you actually see that clip on television?
I did not, no. I've just read an article about it, though, in The Independent. A flustered Boris Johnson has branded suggestions he may have taken part in further rule-breaking during the pandemic as a load of absolute nonsense. Well, I believe him because it's not like he has a history of lying or anything. Yeah.
Anyway, I feel so angry. He's such a disgrace for this country, and he needs to pull himself together.
Yeah.
You know, I feel sorry for his wife.
She's made her bed. She can lie in it.
On it. I
exactly.
Know,
yeah.
Anyway, Nick, it was nice talking to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Evelyn.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
She's very, very angry. Well, I can understand that. The former Prime Minister would not say who he believed... Hang on. The former Prime Minister would not say who he believes is trying to stitch him up, having previously claimed that he appears to be the victim of a politically motivated plot. See, this is where we are. People will not accept responsibility for what they do. And if somebody suggests that they should, then it's a stitch-up. It's a plot. This whining victimhood.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
It just goes straight through him like words through Blackpool Rock. If everything isn't going exactly as he wants it, then he starts whining and throwing his toys out of the pram. It's pathetic. He claimed that the Cabinet Office... hang on. I have a frog in my... hang on. Oh, dear. He claimed that the Cabinet... It's a good job there's only a couple of minutes to go. I might make it. He claimed that the Cabinet Office decision to hand over entries from his official diary during the pandemic to police without first querying them with him was ridiculous. It wasn't ridiculous. It's how the law works. Number 10 and the Cabinet Office are adamant that ministers were not involved when Whitehall officials passed concerns to the Metropolitan Police and Thames Valley Police. As is normal. But, you know, he's not after normal, he's after special treatment. If he doesn't get special treatment, then he screams and screams and screams till he's sick. Of course, it's difficult to hear him because he's not around these parts no more. So anyway, I was in Hyde Park the other day and I was looking at an ice cream van. There's this cafe near the river, near the lake in Hyde Park. And an ice cream van had pulled up there, and they were selling 99s. God, it's absolutely decades since I had a 99. I mean, I must have been in short trousers. And I looked at the people who were coming away with it, they're looking a little bit despondent, and I thought, those 99s, they don't look very big. They don't make them like they used to, I thought. And then a newspaper article about the very same thing came out the next day. British ice cream sellers are complaining that Cadbury's flakes are too crumbly. Millions of the 99 ice cream product are set to be sold over the bank holiday weekend, but vendors have said they've noticed the quality of the chocolate staple taken a hit since parent company, not Cadbury's anymore, Mondelez International. That's who the parent company is.
What?
Yeah, Mondelez International. They moved its production to Egypt. Egypt it's made in now. What? Exactly. Some of these ice cream sellers are turning to German alternatives as a result. German alternatives. What, like Frankfurters? I'll have an ice cream with a massive sausage in it, please.
Disgusting.
They've revealed their frustration at having to pay top money for a box of flakes, which then arrives as a collection of shards, with some sellers resorting to sprinkling bits of shattered confectionery over their products. I don't want bits. One seller said, you can't give somebody a 99 with a broken flake. It's embarrassing for an ice cream man. Another said they're charging top money for them, but they arrive as though they've been bounced off a cliff. You see, these are problems that you didn't even know existed. Ice cream sellers. They got worries too, you know. An owner of one van said she had to throw away just under half of the flakes in a single box. There's 140 in a box. Had to throw half away. They can't possibly be throwing them away, though. I mean, I'd have them. They're broken, not poison. A spokesperson for the company concerned says, we take quality issues very seriously. They're our number one priority.
It's the country's number one priority.
It's his number one priority, and it's their number one priority. Well, it is very difficult delivering the crumbliest, flakiest chocolate that tastes like chocolate never tasted before. Which is a strapline I'd never really understood. Like never tasted before? It's just chocolate. But you will, you'll need a bib if you're going to order one this weekend. That is my best suggestion to you. Thanks for all the texts and the tweets and such, particularly the ones that I couldn't get around to. Sorry about that. I'm very, very bad at my job. Now, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can listen back on Global Player. The show on Friday and Saturday gets stuck up the internet as a podcast. We take the news and the ads out. Takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity, and with the money you save, you'll be able to buy a 99. They're £5 these days.
What?